All right, welcome back. Welcome back. So today we're again, like we've already said, we're covering silent treatment. This is going to be, it's likely it's going to be an ongoing conversation. Just warning you, okay? Because this is an epidemic, damn near pandemic, okay? It's happening everywhere in a lot of because when you don't know what to do, there's always one side. When you don't know what you're doing, there's always one side that yield towards a cookie cutter solution. That's just easy. It's still painful, but it's an easier pain to endure. Some people would rather just shut down. It's a form of pain because it's painful. It feels toxic to not be in good terms with your partner, but it's a pain that they prefer in that moment as compared to the pain of handling the issue, listening to the other side, try to understand where they're coming from, not getting stuck in where you're coming from, not getting stuck in your idea of what mutual understanding look like. Just shut everything down for a second to hear where they're coming from. That is a painful process. None of these is easy. Everything I say on this show and in this series is easier said than done. Because you're somebody's daughter, you're somebody's son, and the idea that you should just subject yourself and you to other people all the time in the name of making marriage work, that's like punishment, right? So yes, the process of getting to the actual lasting solution we're talking about today is going to be hard. It's going to be difficult if you find yourself in this type of poto. It's not easy. Okay? It's not easy. It's easier said than done. So Allah can stand on this stage and run his mouth and if you say, yeah, he thinks it's easy. You're right. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Now we're on the same page.
You're right.
This is difficult. But it's worth it if you can go through the process. It's worth it if you can go through the process because it means the rest of your life in harmony. It means the rest of your life wondering what they mean by it. They're always arguing with their husband and their wife. You're always wondering, I don't have that experience, right? We were covering a video here the other time, and there's a guy called Michael Jai White, actor, and his wife Gillian White, and they were talking about they don't know what it feels like to argue. When people say marriage is hard, they can't relate. And if you go in the comments, you can see people cap. Well, I understand a lot of people are dealing with very toxic situations that have been normalized, or they found a way to cope. One of the ways they might cope is keeping malice, or we can call it an extended shutdown, not a shutdown, okay, not a withdrawal. Those are different things. A shutdown so that you can actively listen to what they're saying. See, that's a little bit different, right? That's actually a healthy thing to do. Okay, I have ideas of my own, but let me shut it down. See, I just used the word shut down. Shut it down so I can see where he's coming from, or preferably for me, see where she's coming from, because you're a king. You don't compete with women. Okay? So see where she's coming from with these crazy ideas. Let's see. Right? Shutting that down temporarily so you can gauge where they're coming from, or so you can disengage from a very escalated toxic argument. Hopefully no more than 24 hours, right? It's okay to sleep over it, but no more than 24 hours. That will be healthy. That's okay, because we're human beings, and sometimes we get into basketballs and we can't get through what were our thoughts, or the other person is not making sense to you, right? That's an evidence that you're a regular human being like the rest of us. But once it's getting past that, then we're not animals. We're not just random animals that we just act out anyhow. No, we have to have structure, right? We have to have some rules, some principles that we follow, so we don't self-sabotage or shoot ourselves on the legs. right? So keeping malice, there are some meanings, dictionary meanings. I personally, I don't rock with dictionary meanings. I know many people do, so I'm forced to go in the dictionary meanings and say, okay, you're happy. A lot of the dictionary meanings are old, they're outdated, they're disconnected from how we use certain words in real life, right? And that disconnect can create discombobulation, can create basketballs, right? So when you say hustle, I think you're thinking you're calling me a thief. And from where I was raised, you're calling me a thief. And the other, you're just meaning like, oh, I'm a hustler. You say I'm over ambitious, and I'm like, I'm not over ambitious. I'm just ambitious. And then I'm taking it personally, and then I'm arguing with you right now. See, it becomes basketballs, whereas I could just say, what do you mean, right? Because it's not just dictionary meanings, especially when you're dealing with interpersonal relationship. There's too many nuances to get stuck on dictionary meanings. So yes, malice in the dictionary means somebody with bad intentions, somebody who wants to outrightly hurt you, right? But even at that, we can shape that meaning back to what we're talking about, because sometimes you mean to hurt people, but you might not realize you're hurting them, but you mean to do what you're doing that's hurting them. Now, can they receive it as you're hurting them? In which case, we call it abuse. They feel it as abuse. You're like, no, I'm not abusing you, because you think that's not your intentions. But that's not how that works, okay? Because there's two people involved. And if you care for that relationship, then you should be concerned about how your actions will be interpreted on the other side. So if it's interpreted on the other side as abuse, it becomes effectively abuse. Not because I hate you, not because I don't like your own meaning. It's because you subscribe to the relationship, and one side of that relationship is considering it to be abusive. So never mind your argument and dictionary meanings. You need to pay attention to that. Okay? We don't care if it's right or wrong, remember? But that becomes a reality in your relationship. You should pay attention to it. So maybe it's just a misunderstanding, but how are you going to detect it's a misunderstanding if you're just dismissing it? Like, no, it's not abuse. That's how you call everything abuse. Everything I woke. Well, if you're dismissing it, that doesn't make it go away. It becomes resentments. Okay? So malice, yes, in dictionary meaning means evil. Somebody's outrightly trying to, but like they said numerous times on that show, on Auntie B's show, keeping malice is used a little bit differently in Nigerian context. It literally means silent treatment. That is synonymous. Okay, it means there's another word. You become cold turkey, stonewalling. Okay, you just like, okay, I can't handle the conversation. It's too much for me. That's it. Shut it down. Okay, shut it down because I need some time away. That's different. That can actually be healthy because you back up from the situation. I talk about that here all the time. Sometimes you have to back off from the situation. Actually, matter of fact, most of the time, you should back off from a toxic argument, escalated argument. You should back off most of the time. Okay, when I say most of the time, I mean not 95% of the time, like 99.999% of the time. All right, so malice means ill will or desire to do harm to someone. That's what malice means by itself, right? And keeping malice, and when you say something keeping, you're talking about, negative feelings are being held. Okay, so feelings, bring it down to actually harming, bring it down to feelings. Now we're talking about actually holding grudges, negative feelings held onto someone, against someone rather, for some time. Okay, so like I said, negative feelings is not necessarily a feeling. So you don't exactly control it. You can influence it. You can surround yourself. You can drink water. You can take a cold shower. You can take some wine, and then your feeling might be flipped a little bit different. You might feel a little bit better, right? But the point here is that you have negative feelings. So it's not an idea of calling it criminal. That's why it's not about right and wrong. Most people that participate in this bad behavior, keeping malice, they're not necessarily doing it from a place of intentions like that. It's often a coping mechanism. Like they just can't stand confrontation. I think Jim is going to mention that also. Okay. So people might yield towards that type of pain because it's an easier pain to hold things together. Maybe oftentimes you find that they mean well. Maybe they didn't mean it to last so long, but it gets awkward and awkward and awkward and awkward. It gets extended out of proportion, and then also you're not sure how the other person is going to respond. You don't want the rejection if you go towards them first, right? So it's never as simple as right and wrong. No, it's never. Like when we're talking about this relationship thing, please stop trying to make it about right and wrong. It's about you leave your own body for a second and try to understand that other people have ways of receiving the experience that both of you are creating together. Okay? So that's keeping malice. Keeping malice is synonymous to silent treatment within the context of what we're going to be talking about today. Holding a grudge is quite intentional, but oftentimes you might not want to call it that when it's between husband and wife, because you have to do things together, right? But withdrawing certain activities, withdrawing certain interactions because you want to make a point, right? It's a sign of lack of skills. It's incompetence on the part of a woman or a man. Okay? It's like, okay, let me use this other thing to get them to do what I want them to do. Have you considered the negative impact of that? Short term, mid term, but also long term. There are people right now that their husband shut down on them 8 years ago, right? And up to today, they can't get over it. They can't trust him. And they wonder where the lack of trust is coming from. Because they're like, I don't cheat. I don't sleep with other women. After all, I will help you wash your pata every day. So why can't you trust me? Majority of the issues in marriages are not about cheating. I don't know how soon I can get that to your head. Okay? Especially if you're a Yankee, the idea of randomly cheating, willingly people cheat. Don't get me wrong. But I'm just saying, it's not the same thing as, it's an expensive lifestyle. And besides that, anyway, that's not really the majority of people's issues. Majority of people's issues is communication. Just simple as it sounds. Like communication. Like, can I make you understand me? Can I attempt to understand you without getting into basketballs? Just before I got on this show, I was listening to something on TikTok, and the guy was going in. The wife doesn't work. The guy has a good business. They have fantastic, beautiful business, right? According to him. And they have been blessed to buy a house cash in America. They bought a house cash. And the single point of contention, simple and single, is that their AC has been broken for a few days and there's a delay in getting the guy there to fix it. The lady has fear of some kind of flies coming in the house, so she doesn't want to keep the windows open. The guy said, please open the windows so that we don't choke from heat, right? And whenever he comes back from work, the house is steamy and hot and he's pissed off, annoyed. And he's like, is God, I beg you, please don't keep these windows shut. And he seems very frustrated, and he said there are other issues that they have going on like that. You see, these are the kind of issues we're talking about. Okay? These are the kind of issues we're talking about. But I wanted to do a quick small monologue like that because we have reaction to do today. We're already 28 minutes in. Let me see the chat before I continue. Welcome, Chidima. Welcome. Good to see you. Yes, Beyond Braid, it's not about faults. It's about, there's an understanding that we need to get to here. My goal is to get you to agree with the fact, not opinion, that silent treatment is a terrible form of communication. And also, I also want to educate you. I don't know if we'll get to it today, but through this series, I want to educate you that there are better and more effective and lasting solutions to get your wife, your husband to hear you out. You've done it before. That's why they married you or you married them. So you can do it again. I just have to show you 1 or 2 or 3 different tactics to tap back to your original space. You know that moment when you were in love? Because if they don't like you like that, of course, they won't hear you out. And there are many husbands and wives that are living together. They don't really like each other like that. And they wonder why they're struggling. And they're the same people that will come and tell us you should not be friends with your husband and wife.
Not be juju be that.
Again, a cookie cutter, easy yield to solution that seems like it makes sense on paper, because after all, see, if we can remove the C finish and just act, everybody do their roles. Just do your roles, okay, so that we can be happy. No, you're not going to be happy still. This is not your boss. This is not your subordinate. Anyway, Beyonce says, so if malice and grudges couldn't describe withdrawal from conversation temporarily in order to avoid fight or name calling, what word can be used to describe it then? That, withdrawal, right? Withdrawal. I always use back off from the situation. If it's toxic and you can't get your point across, you're probably heated up, you're caught up in your emotions. No, there's no communication that's going to be effective because you're probably angry and upset. You're caught up in your emotions. So that conversation is going to be laced with emotions on both sides. You're probably triggering each other. Just back off. So we don't have to have a term for it. And that's one of the points I also wanted to make. I think we were stuck on the semantics of the words way too much. Okay, let's pretend we didn't know what we're talking about. What it means if it's more than 24 hours and you haven't spoken to your spouse. That's toxic. Okay, regardless of why you did it, it's toxic. Okay, and if you keep doing it, you will create damages that you might not be able to reverse. That's the point. We don't have to have a terminology for this. This is one of the things that I saw was wrong with the conversation thus far. It's like shut down, I be withdraw, and I be his grudges about malice, I be his dictionary. It doesn't matter if you're not talking. You're in the same house, and you're holding grudges against each other. It's toxic. It doesn't matter who is right or wrong. You're going to damage that relationship beyond repairs at some point. It's only a matter of time. All right? Because as much as you might not see it as a big deal, this is just how we were raised. The other person, more than likely, sees it as a big deal. They can't express it for the same reason. They are afraid to express it, right? But the day they are done, they are done. And then to be like, oh, it came out of nowhere. Nah, bro, it didn't come out of nowhere. He just didn't know. he just never expected it.
He never expected it.
All right, so it's a lot deeper than just calling it malice. Yes, it's not about the names. It's not about that. I think what separates them will be duration of silence. Yes, that's for us to put. The duration is not a written hard rule stone too. It's just that for a typical person, right? More than 24 hours, you're not talking to your spouse. That doesn't feel good. That doesn't feel good on someone. At least one of the parties. Well, that's it. That's what I want them to feel so they can know we have to fix it. No, they will help you fix it, but they will also sow a seed of resentment. And it will bite you in the butt at some point later on from a blind spot. Some is up for cultural interpretation and local context. No, we don't have to make it that complicated. We have to also, as much as we know that it's a complex thing, right? Human beings are already complex, right? But in order to put some kind of system in place, we can also look at patterns. We can look at how we behave. And we can say, you know what? Let's create a rule. No, but there shouldn't be any rule. No, it's okay to create rules because the government will do it for you anyway. If you don't create rule, when you end up in divorce court, there will be rules. Okay? In my jurisdictions, they force you to go through some kind of mediation as part of the rules. right? As if you want to go to trial, you can go to trial too, and then as part of the rules, the lawyer will collect your money. He said lawyer down, but Uncle Ben said lawyers down the street. That lawyer will be free. He will collect your money. He will squeeze every dime out of your pocket. Oh, by the way, the other side of the lawyer. Oh my God, they don't care about your children like that. Like that, they don't care about your children at all. They will drag you in the pot. You won't like yourself when you're done with it. Traumatic. Go and ask anybody that have gone through it. Okay. Ọlọ́run ní jẹ́ kí orógùn divorce, Uncle Beno. It's not something to throw around and fly around anyhow. I mentioned this to my brother. He knows we're having this conversation. Okay? It's not something anybody pray for. It happens. It's okay. We don't shame it because sometimes it's just the best solution, divorce. But it's not something that we just, no, it's not something you should throw around as a threat with your partner. It's terrible idea. It's just as bad as silent treatment. You don't threaten your partner with divorce. Directly, indirectly, subtly. Don't do that. Don't do that because there's a good chance you're speaking from a place of fear and you attract what you fear the most. All right, so this is a good topic. Mo Dele, good to see you. I used to be really bad, going for days without talking to my hubby, and he would still be talking to me. From my view, I had explained to him that it's how we loved growing up. Yeah, and that's what I wanted to bring to this conversation, that it's not about you being a bad person when you did it. Because I saw some comments, now I feel bad. I know it's not about feeling bad. It's about knowing better, right? It's about improving yourself. We all need to improve ourselves, including, oh, by the way, those ones that don't shut down, they have their own bad habits. They are the ones that tend to apologize very quickly to brush things under the rug. It's just as bad. Oh, you never expected that, right?
I never expected it.
Yeah, it's not about right or wrong on one side is better. It's about this coping mechanism, this problem-solving methodology is not good. Don't rush to apology. Understand what you're apologizing first before you're apologizing. If you're apologizing just because you want to take the higher road, be clear that's why you're apologizing. Don't have any expectations around that because Yusuf, you go collect.
Sorry.
All right, so again, like I said, let's get into some of this conversation. I was trying to see, because you guys won't let me go now. You already have a bunch of chats here. Let me read through them real quick, and then we'll start with the reaction. Odile said, I'm getting better, but I just don't want to talk when I'm upset. That's fine. Give yourself some time. Explain to your partner, like, I need time when I'm upset. That's not what silent treatment is, right? God don't teach me in some ways, honestly. That's good. That's awesome. Thanks for these 24 hours guidelines, MOP, because the semantics can sometimes get in the way of receiving the message. Yes, 24 hours, meaning if it's late night in the evening, some people say you shouldn't sleep over it. Me, I say it's okay to sleep over it. It's okay. 24 hours go beyond a night sleep. But after you don't sleep and you don't wake up and you still want to keep grudge, and then we wait a few more hours and then we went to work and then we came back and you still want to keep grudge, something is terribly wrong with that method. Not with you, because a lot of people do this. Something is wrong with that method of coping with conflict. It's a terrible way to cope with conflict and communication breakdown. Okay, so while you are wallowing in that, because some people they enjoy it, maybe the way they were raised for real, they kind of like in weird ways, I call it weird ways because it's still painful. In weird ways, they kind of enjoy it, but it's still better for them. It feels better than confronting the issues and discussing it. Or they don't want to do this, already awkward, it's thick, and there's certain personalities that shy away from, like, okay, we could talk now. There's personalities like that, you know? And also some men are having, thank God Auntie B mentioned that, they have a hard time getting their point across to their lady. It's part of their lack of skills, but ladies, it's something you should be aware of because you can also help. Of course, you're the helper. You can also help to make the conversation a lot more easier. Yes, his personality might just shut down. Just because he's using the wrong tactic does not mean both of you will not collect.
Sorry.
Just so you know, it's not about one side over the other. It's about learning. Okay. All right. Let's see. I'm asked to bring $5,000 and it can increase. What are we talking about? What did I miss? Did I miss something before? I mean that keeping malice is a Nigerian phrase mostly. I did not know it meant silent treatment until it was broken down for me. Yeah. Keeping malice is, well, in this context, but again, malice has deeper meanings. But the way Nigerians mostly use it means you're holding a grudge and you're not talking. Let's see, especially with how Yvonne deeply wounded May with her statement, and the next day she's quickly apologizing. Some people are too careless with their words. Well, that apology was solid, and they're not married. That's fine. It's also okay to make mistakes, right? But we're talking about husband and wife. If as a repeated pattern, you start to notice that your apology doesn't mean anything to your partner anymore, is what I'm talking about. There has to be patterns to call this a thing. If it's a one-off, if it's a two-off, every other, then you're not really, of course you can apologize to but if you notice that your spouse does not value your apologies anymore, you should pay attention. It's not because they don't want to forgive. It's because your apology doesn't mean anything anymore. Like anything else, oversupply becomes no value. Like economics, right? Very, very simple concept, but very hard when it's time to apply it to human emotions. But keep it simple. They will apologize and will keep repeating the same issue over and over. Exactly. So the apology becomes meaningless. You're correct. Malice has a Nigerian meaning different from the legal Western meaning. It doesn't matter. We're talking about not talking to your spouse for more than 24 hours on a repeated basis. Become a pattern. So that 24 hours tend to become 3 weeks. For some people, you saw some testimonies. I don't know why I call it testimonies. Some people said they haven't spoken for 3 years. At that point, 3 years, that's when they decided to file for divorce. It's not because they decided I'm just going to be shut down. It's because it becomes awkward. Just like if you've ever refrained from sex, right, for a while and you're trying to get back into it, there's a little bit of awkward energy, right, that you have to overcome, right? Yeah, it gets very, very thick, So when I think about it a bit deeply, it's a reflection of the philosophy around forgiveness and victims being held responsible for forgiveness. Yes, we can't manipulate with forgiveness either. So let's get into it. Let's get into Jim's submission yesterday, and then we'll hold it.
Yeah. So I was really disappointed, but for the malice matter, and to be, I can keep malice.
Okay, so she said for the malice matter, I can keep malice. Can you guys hear that? I want to make sure you guys can hear that before I continue. Let me know if you can hear that. Let me know if you can hear that while I play a little bit of dividing thing here. I'll be right back in 20. We offer evidence-based relationship and marriage resources and coaching to help you navigate the difficult times.
Don't just wing it. Learn the principles that work.
Download our 2 free books and book your complimentary coaching session now at manofprestige.com.